It was a rough one for the Cleveland Browns Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. And as always, what we always do here, we got John Costco, Pro Football Focus, breaking down the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today it's going to be a lot of ugly. We get to the offensive side of the football. We don't know how we like that game plan. Defensive line. I'm just waiting to see how low they come up on the defensive line. And then we'll get to is this the coaching staff to lead us where we need to go? We'll talk about defense. We'll talk about the special teams, and we'll talk about where the Cleveland Browns move going forward from here on the next episode of the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things dog pound. LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, Mr. Garrett Bush, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, the Barbershop, Saturday mornings on 92.3 The Fan, pregame, postgame coverage for your Browns, for your Buckeyes, of course, for your Cleveland Cavaliers. Make sure you're following at GBush91. Today's episode of Locked On Browns is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, guys, you know the deal. Go ahead, put together a lineup, 2 to 5 players. If your players score below or over their projections, you come out a winner. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com. Promo code Locked On. As always, we should all of you make Locked On your first listen every day, whether it's in traditional podcast form, whether it is on the YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed. You all have the notifications on, because if you do, you find out we're going live right now. So we appreciate you all for that. Throw a like to each episode, just some help to ways to help with the show's growth. And of course, the Roku app. Search Locked On Cleveland Sports. You will find the Locked On Browns podcast, the Locked On Guardians podcast, Locked On Cavaliers, and of course, G. Bush and the boys with the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Before we kick it off, my man G. Bush, 41. You ain't getting no younger, but we wish you a big old fat one. Happy birthday, G.
Hey, man, I appreciate you guys, man. 41 years old. I'm looking around. I'm like, man, you always guess my age and guess how the year's gone by how you doing 1 year to the next. So last year, I didn't even know Jeff. I wasn't even involved in the podcast. I did know John Costco. So it's been a brilliant 1 year. I got an opportunity to meet a lot of people on the Locked On Browns podcast, new people, new energy. And I'm just glad and happy and excited to be talking about the Browns with both John and Jeff in terms of, it's a team is a little bad, but I get a lot of people to talk to. It's a community. So I'm really excited to be able to work with such quality people. 1 year ago, didn't know John, but it's been a really great ride. It's been hopefully we get better as we go along. I think we will. And hopefully we get a chance to grow with this team and ultimately get to a place where we wanted to be, which is basically saying, hey, the Browns are good, and we're here to tell you that they're good. We'll get there one way or the other. But I appreciate you, Jeff. And
well, that was a great start to the show.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, that was a great start to the show. I'm not sure if it's going to go much better from here on out.
It's all downhill from here. All downhill from here.
Well, we'll just take it through and look, because timing and how we got to cut these segments. We'll save the defense for the second, because if John is going to play the George Costanza of airing the grievances, this could be a 4-hour episode of Locked On Browns. Offensive side of the ball, though, look, it started strong. You got a nice kick return to start the game. Jerome Ford, the rookie, returning after 4 weeks. You go down, you get yourself up 7-0, and then the Browns defense, and it's embarrassing, John, because you're coming off a bye. You should look better than that. But again, we're going to stick to the offensive side of the ball here. I know everybody's always about the running game. The running game, nothing you could do yesterday. It was, once you're that far behind, you really just can't make a strong commitment to the run and allow yourself enough time to come back. Jacoby Brissett, John, no turnovers yesterday, but what you saw yesterday is what holds a player like Jacoby Brissett back. Jacoby Brissett is smart. He's diligent. He's accurate, but he plays at a playing speed that almost kind of seems like you kind of have the pause button on. And look, it's not his fault. He is what he is, obviously. But when you get in a game yesterday, like you did against the Miami Dolphins, and the pressure just keeps coming, and this team lost Emmanuel Ogbah yesterday, and then still just kept it coming and kept it coming and kept it coming. This is what good teams do down the stretch. You add more defensive line play, you add pass rushers. That's what proves to be the difference in late season games, playoff games. And John, I don't know if I've seen this Browns offensive line collectively play this poor in my life. Other than Posick, I don't think he was the only one that didn't get penalized. You had guys that didn't finish the game. By the time it was over, you had your third string center, and second string center, which is what Posick is. You had your second string right guard, second string right tackle, second string left tackle. It was just a horrible, horrible effort by this group, John.
Yeah, when your highest graded pass protector on the offensive line is Jedrick Wills, you've got a problem. And Jedrick Wills is not like a terrible pass protector, but he's definitely the weakest link when it comes to that for the Browns offensive line. He was at a 53.8 in this game. He gave up 3 hits and another hurry, and was beaten another 3 times. This was as bad as I've ever seen Joel Bitonio play. He had a 30.4 in pass protection. He gave up a couple of hits, got a couple of hurries as well. It was not good for him. And then Jack Conklin was bad as well. He gave up 2 of the sacks. Ethan Pochik was bad. He gave, he was rough and a couple poor snaps and stuff like that as well. So like it was a really bad effort from the Browns offensive line, which coming into this game had been grading as the second best offensive line in the NFL behind the Philadelphia Eagles. And then this one, a collective unit, was a 32.5 in terms of pass protection. I can't remember, like you said, I can't remember the last time that the Browns offensive line looked this bad collectively. It was not a pretty performance by any means.
Well, listen, John, I just got off the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and I'm looking around, and I have to ask this. Is this a case where the team kind of gave up on the coach? You come off a bye week, and I'm not saying they gave up on him for the rest of the season, but you come off a bye week, this is the plan you have together. It seems like your team is in besides the first, series of the game, where obviously Kevin Stefanski is the greatest coach ever in the scripted plays. The Browns are the dominant team if we're scripting the first few plays. After that, it's a different story. But when you see it, Jedrick Wills, you look at even when you get a guy like Nick Chubb who put the ball on the ground, it seemed like it was just a wrap from them. They didn't really try to get him involved, and give the Dolphins a little credit. They did a good job of scheming it up. But as far as up front, did you see any give up? Did you see any for the film? Do you see guys dogging it? You see guys loafing? Because that's the first sign of players and coaches kind of losing the locker room, is when guys ain't putting that effort out there.
Not really much so on the offensive side. There was much more on the defensive side.
Okay.
We'll get to that. I didn't see them giving up on the offense. I think from a schematic standpoint, they were outmatched there. And then they didn't have much of an answer to go, to kind of pivot there. Part of it is I know that it was really hot on their side of the side, on their sideline. That does kind of play a factor into it. There was, over 100 degrees on their sideline versus like 80 degrees on the Miami Dolphins sideline. But from an offense perspective, I didn't see too much give up. I know that, Wyatt Teller re-injured his calf, so he left. I did see like a letdown from the team when, after the Chubb fumble, it kind of felt like I don't know if they like gave up, but they kind of had a letdown, like a lot of times when that happens where it's like, hey, we were driving, this is, we could have been taking a lead right here. Your brain, kind of your brain's downshift, and all of a sudden it's like, a game where we should take the lead, they're all of a sudden now have a 3-score lead. So I think that kind of played a factor into it. And they just didn't recover after that until it was basically too late.
John, one bright spot from yesterday, and it's continued. And, I'm sure it's not being nationally recognized the way it is. And it's not like he's lighting the world on fire. But the consistency of a player like Donovan Peoples-Jones, here's a guy, 3 years ago, 6th-round pick out of Michigan. Everybody felt here's a great, great athlete. But I think at the point, nobody was sure if he was actually could play wide receiver. The Browns at times, he's been, early in his career, he was forced into playing time, then gravitated more into earned playing time. And a guy like this right now, who to this point with 8 games to go, has his career best totals. Granted, he hasn't scored a touchdown, which seems just kind of crazy with the amount of, production he's put up to this point. He's somebody I'm looking forward to when we go the Deshaun Watson route in a couple of weeks here, because it looks like for all intents and purposes, this is going to be an evaluation for the 6 weeks that Deshaun Watson is on the field quarterbacking this team. And you want to see where Deshaun fits there. I think obviously that Cooper is a legitimate piece here, but for a guy like Donovan Peoples-Jones is somebody who's kind of stepped up in what's been a really, really muddy mess to this point.
Yeah. I mean, he had 5 catches for 99 yards. It looked really good. Unfortunately, there were like a couple of deep balls that the Dolphins made some nice plays on. He's never a guy that you want to be your highest target guy, right? He had 9 targets in the game yesterday. That led the team by almost double over David Bell and Pharaoh Brown. So like from a target distribution standpoint, I'd say that Jacoby Brissett kind of failed in terms of who he should have been targeting. Like I know that every team is going to be keying on Amari Cooper when you don't have David Njoku out there. But I think you need to make a more concerted effort to get Amari Cooper more than just 3 targets in a game. He caught all 3 of his targets. So I think, you could have done a little bit better to get him the ball. All 3 of those, I think, went for a first down. But, I think, like you said, Donovan Peoples-Jones for a 6th-round pick coming into this, what is it, year 3 for him now? Like you couldn't ask more that you out of a guy like that, because you generally speaking, a 6th-round pick guy, you're hoping that gets some production, and you're thinking, hey, this is going to be a plus special teams type guy, and that he's actually producing at a pretty good level for them.
Before we get to the sieve, which is the defensive side of the football, I was so hot yesterday. I was like, look, you know what they need to do? Go ahead and give Nick Chubb the next 2 weeks off. I just want to see him with Deshaun Watson. Give him a nice little 2 weeks off. Deshaun Watson come out here, and I want to see, because we auditioning right now. I just want to see what Deshaun Watson is going to do, what it's going to look like. Because right now, these next 2 weeks for me, they're quite meaningless in the scheme of things. We're onto the big party now.
We're going to switch it up here. We're going to go get to the defensive side of the ball here. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush, your latest Locked On Browns as we try to manifest getting knocked out. There's no other term to put it. Getting knocked out yesterday in South Beach.
Smooth out.
Look, folks, it is the holiday season. More people stopping by the house. You always want to make sure you're stocked. Wine, alcohol. What makes a decent holiday gift? Wine, alcohol, something special. This day, find what you love at Total. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new favorite single barrel bourbon for the perfect gifts for everyone on your list, with some help from a friendly guide. And with all the confidence of knowing you found something special for the lowest price. Find what you love, what you find. Only at Total Wine and More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits are not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly. Be 21.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. As you can see right now, if you're on the YouTube channel, you are watching this live. I told you we had a little special treat for you, right? We're trying out the live version of this, so we might be able to mix in some comments here. We might be getting some comments at the bottom of the screen. We'll be able to take some of your questions. So you want to be in contact with us so you know when we're going live. We're going to try to shoot for 2 o'clock to see if this time works. But it's just something new to keep the fans engaged, do something more. Browns are 3-6, but we're going to try to keep giving you some innovative stuff and some creative stuff to keep you guys in tune and locked on to what the Browns are doing, your team every single day. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the notifications so you know when we're going live. And you can get in and get some of your comments live on the show as well. So let's get right to this. Defense was horrible. A lot of people don't like calling for jobs, and to be truthful, some people probably think we do a bad job, right? So and people say you guys need to be gone. Never. Look, my DMs is full of them, right? But my God, this defensive front. I'm coming right to it, John. I want to look at my fellas up front. Can we get them PFF grades loaded and ready for the greatest defensive tackle room in all of the National Football League to see how they did coming into this game? Because I know they got to at least be above 20%. We got to have some 30s and 40s maybe, right? What are we doing?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Just as you can imagine, when you get run over like crap. I don't want to cuss here, so poop to a tin horn, as my dad always used to say. When you can't stop the run, it's basically what it was. Taven Bryan at 31.1. You got Tommy Togiai with a 29.2. You got Roderick Perry, who had a 52.4, which, I mean, I didn't even realize there was a Roderick Perry on the roster. And he was
the one that came up because Perry on Winfrey was put,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That guy.
Yeah. So he played significant snaps and, was actually better than some of their mainstays that have been there. Jordan Elliott was a 53.2. So just bad across the board. When you kind of what you expect when you're talking about the worst run defense in the NFL. And then at the linebacker position, Tony Fields was really poor on just 7 run snaps. He was a 28.3 there. Ronnie Harrison was again, he was, you're talking about safety and you're talking about up the middle of the field. He was a 30.3. Deion Jones is a 30.8. I don't know if you want me to keep going about these 30s and 20s grades. They're there all day long, and it's really bad. I mean, a lot of that too is this effort. Like to be able to stop the run is like you have to care and like to not get demoralized that way. And it literally looked like they stopped caring at some point. There isn't, just go look at the plays and you can see them just kind of like massive, like, Lincoln Town Car size holes, and you can run through those no problem. I have a pulled calf and a pulled hamstring, but I guarantee I probably could have ran for 60 yards on the Browns yesterday, how bad it was. So, it's not just personnel. I think there's scheme that has to go with it and coaching that has to go with that as well, because the effort all around was really bad.
Well, this is where we get to this with John, because this is where I'm kind of with the heavy evaluation period. You're going to look at Deshaun Watson for 6 games and you're going to say, is there anything else we need? What exactly do we need? And it's crazy that we're here, that we think we're much closer on that side of the ball. And this is what Deshaun Watson should do. He should be able to cover up a couple of imperfections. You talk about the scheme, you talk about coaching, you talk about the players. Well, game stinks. I've got about 5 players on that defense. I'm sorry, 3. I'll keep 3 cornerbacks. I'll keep Miles. I'll keep the 2 rookie DNs, and I'll still keep Grant Delpit around. But John Johnson, a massive, massive cap hit for next year. But other than that, everybody else is either a free agent or it's time to go, baby.
Yeah, I mean, if the guys that you have like massive dead cap hits to, like there's nothing you can do about that essentially. But you've got to bring in a different mindset when it comes to this defense. It's bad. It's obviously really bad. And like last year they were a top 5 unit. But you're talking about losing probably some veteran leadership in that locker room, like not just on the defensive side, but the offensive side, which kind of, maybe keeps things together. But like, who'd you lose? You recently lost Sheldon Richardson, which is a veteran piece that you had. Tack McKinley was there last year, which, maybe on the field he's not the greatest, but maybe that's a veteran piece. Malik Jackson, exactly. You also had Troy Hill that was on the team as well. And then like when the problem is too, when you pay players, it's like before they get paid, they're in that mindset of like, I need to get to the second contract so I can get paid, and I'm going to bust my butt every single play, every single practice, every single day to earn that second contract. They get that second contract, and it's kind of like, okay, I made it. And so you kind of take a little bit of breather. Some guys are not like that. There are some that will continue to absolutely dominate. But to me, what it looks like is that a lot of these guys got their second contracts and, said, okay, I've made it. I got my money. Oh, I need to take this. I have a hurt, foot. I'm going to take this week off because, I've already been paid. I don't need to prove myself anymore. So it's like, look at Bill Belichick, right? Like Bill Belichick doesn't like to pay guys. And there's a reason, because as soon as you pay them, where does their hunger go? Are they still hungry to go after it every single day to try to earn that dollar? Like he ships off Chandler Jones, who's a great player, but it's like, hey, I have no problem trading away, one of the best defensive ends in football, because guess what? I can replace him with a guy who's going to be just as hungry as him, and maybe 90% as effective. And that's good enough for him.
Well, and then it comes the evaluation part. Bill Belichick is good enough to ship him off and then go into the draft and be a good enough evaluator to get his replacement that he knows can perform on the field and mentally understand what he's going to do as far as his motor. I don't have the faith in the Browns at this point that they can do that. I just don't.
So far, we have not seen Andrew Barry be able to draft defensive tackle well. Even linebacker as well. You talk about the linebackers he's brought in, Jacob Phillips, Tony Fields, even JOK. Is there's anybody else I'm missing? But JOK has been hurt, but when he's on the field and when everything around him is good, he's a good player. But he's not a guy that you're going to say, hey, I need you to go out there and stick your nose into plays and be a dominant force at that linebacker position. That's not who he is. He's more of an athlete out there that's going to be making plays in space. And he needs other guys around him to be performing well. He's not a guy that can, I'd say, lead by example and raise the floor of this defense. Like an Aaron Donald can, or like a Jalen Ramsey can, like that. Those are the type of guys that can do that. So like I would say that defensive tackle, linebacker are the two positions he can't draft. And so far what we've seen from him, he can't draft safeties as well. So, those are some significant pieces when it comes to defense. I like his ability as a cornerback evaluator so far. I think Martin Emerson has a lot of talent there. And also I think Greg Newsome, he's a really good player if he, stays healthy and stuff. So I think, it's been hit and miss, especially on that defense. And part of it is like, hey, how much of it is Andrew Barry and how much is it that, hey, Joe Woods, this is the defensive personnel that I want for my defense. And now that I've got it, and we're in year 3 with what Joe Woods wants. So it's like there is a give and take when it comes to, hey, how much of it is as a defensive coordinator having sway and the guys that he wants for his system versus, as a GM, you're supposed to draft the guys that your coaches essentially want to fit into their system. And so there's on both, there's a, fault to have there, I'd say.
No question at all. And stuff. And here's the thing is, scouting departments, those things you redo after a draft. So this is something where it's going to have to turn around quickly this year. And there's not going to be a lot of new people here essentially to do it. So it's going to take some serious work here, because they cannot miss on any players they're bringing into these positional groups in 2023. They need a lot of help with them. Monday Night Football, you got Washington, you got Philly, put a little action on Jalen Hurts, maybe on Sanders, AJ Brown. You can pick a lineup, 2 to 5 players with picks. You can win a chance at winning 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. It includes the NFL, the NBA, MLB, NHL, collegiate football, of course, men's and women's collegiate basketball. Heck, you can even put a lineup together for disc golf. Yes, I'm serious. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is just that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com right now and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, they will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, no space, at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100.
Yes. Welcome back to Locked On Browns podcast. We have John Costco, Pro Football Focus in the building, who always joins us after each and every Browns games, breaking down the grades. And we do that each and every Browns game as well. Make sure you guys follow me at GBush91 on Twitter, as well as let me see if I can do this without putting your name up there. What is it? I'm gonna put it up there just so I can see it. Nope, that ain't it. There it is. Jeff _LJ_Lloyd on Twitter as well, man. Make sure you check that out, and make sure you continue to make the Browns podcast, Locked On Browns podcast, your first listen of each and every day. You guys have been supporting us great on the podcast side as well as the YouTube side. Guys, what I want to ask you moving forward is, this is a game where I think we would all agree that the playoffs are that has been dashed. That's out of here. When you lost so many games on the AFC side, especially to teams that are ahead of you for a wild card, you look at yourself getting to the bottom of the AFC North almost. The only guys you're battling with which is Pittsburgh. Where does this team go from here? What does the rest of the season look like? And what is the transition process that you guys want to see? A lot of people have been calling for Joe Woods. Would you make the move to part ways with Joe Woods? What are the way you're divvying up carries? Do you want to see more of Jerome Ford? Do you want to see more of the young guys auditioning? And if the guys aren't playing hard on defense, do you want to see more of the young guys going to bring in somebody in, free agents, practice squad players? Where do you want to see moving forward for the Cleveland Browns? John, what would you do moving forward to get the best out of this team and to set yourself up for next year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you just start playing younger guys. Like, I don't know if there's any benefit to doing that, because you don't have a first round pick next year that you potentially could have to draft high or whatever, right?
That's
like
huge.
You've already shipped that off to Houston, who, as of right now, I think it's like the number 5 pick overall.
It's almost guaranteed to be top 5. Yes.
Yeah. So I think in the last 6 games of the season, Deshaun, for one, you think about this, the Browns have been blown out in 2 of their 7 losses, and the other 5 have, I think they're 5. They're 3-5, right? Or 3-6. So 3-6. So in 2 of the losses, they've been blown out, and the others, they've been all like single digits, like under 3 points, 3-point losses. And you probably assume that if Deshaun Watson is playing in those games, they win those, so that those 1-score games. So, I think, from a Browns perspective, it's like, you've got to do something differently on defense to change up why you're just getting run over, just a sieve, right? So I think from a Browns perspective in that, hey, start bringing in some other defensive tackles off the streets to see if they can do something different. Like Roderick Perry came in and played better than Taven Bryan and Tommy Togiai. So a guy off the streets was able to do that the job better than the guys that they've been starting. So maybe find some more of those. Maybe bring in some guys that are hungry to play and have some sort of fire under them, and to be able to stop this run, because you're the lowest graded defensive tackle room in the NFL, and it's by a long shot. So I
gotta say it's got to be like I would say double-digit points wouldn't shock me.
It's not quite that. So they're the lowest at a 31.5. The second worst are the Bears at a 37.2. So they are almost 6 points lower in grade than the 31st team, which is pretty bad, obviously. So,
wow.
And they don't generate a pass rush, and then they get run over the Andrew Barry created that defensive tackle room to be able to penetrate and get pressure on the quarterback. They're not even doing that. So they're getting not, you could swallow the tough pill if they were getting, run over in the run game. If these guys were also getting after the passer, maybe getting some pressure on him. They're not doing that at all. So not only are they the lowest graded run defensive tackles, they're also the lowest graded pass rushers at the defensive tackle. So it's a double fold there where they don't have any production at all from that defensive tackle group. And I think you need to start making some moves there of guys off the streets. I don't really care, because it doesn't matter who you put out there right now. What they have is worse than literally anything that you can put out there.
And it starts up front. I mean, everybody knows it's the old adage in football, and it's really hard, for a second level player, or a third level player to come clean up the mess or have to deal with all this traffic. I mean, when you get, 650 pounds of a guard driving your defensive tackle in your direction, you've got to avoid that. Then you got to go find the running back. Hopefully nobody's there to block you. Make the I mean, it just looks like a massive, like, car crash dummies out there, because even the players who aren't blocked have to navigate so much to get themselves there. It's really, really rough. So, I mean, that's been an issue. And look, it's not getting better. I think we all psyched ourselves up from what we saw, against the Bengals. Obviously, maybe that's just a team the Browns just seem to match up well with, because it doesn't seem to be the case with most other teams. We got to a lot here today. Always appreciate John for his time. We wish these were under better circumstances. And G, as you mentioned earlier about your birthday, I got to tell you, some of these shows were really fun in 2020. Right, John? We had some good times back then. We had some good times back in 2020 talking about some good teams. We did. I swear, G, they were out there. They really were.
I swear it was fun.
Yeah. The guy in the comments sending in the lyrics from Send in the Clowns. Oh, my God. Dude, you got me bowling over here. Absolutely love that. So again, make sure you're following at John Costco 3, myself at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, Mr. Garrett Bush, the birthday boy, at G Bush 91. Make sure you're checking out the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show Saturday mornings on 92.3 The Fan, the Barber Shop. Of course, Garrett available pregame, postgame for Browns, for the Cavaliers, for your Cleveland Guardians. And of course, as Ohio State continues to make it through their season here, headed to a possible college football playoff. Wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you're subscribed and following on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, notifications on. You would have gotten the alert about the live show here today. We're going to continue to try to experiment with this for a little bit here. Plus, this 2:00 window kind of gives Garrett and I a situation where we can have as much information as hand as that you guys would want. So make sure you're checking for that. You'll throw a like to every episode, just helps with the promotion of the show, of course. And if you got Roku, go ahead, search Locked On Cleveland Sports. You'll find the Locked On Browns podcast, Cavaliers as well. And of course, G Bush and the crew over at the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.